I'm so excited to be here today. I'm very sad that we can't all be in one room together, but hopefully, over the next couple of months or even in the next year, we'll get to a space where we can all be in the one place. So, guys, look, as Claire said, my background is very much in all things learning and development. I currently work in AIB. As Claire mentioned, I work as a learning and development business partner. So, what does that actually mean? So, essentially, guys, in a nutshell, what that is I work with our employees in AIB to help them grow, to help upskill them, make sure that they actually can be the best that they possibly can be in their roles. So, I have to say, guys, I feel very, very fortunate to do what I do. I love my job. And as well as that, I'm really delighted to be, here with Open Doors and Towards Work today because I did a session back in January and it was absolutely brilliant. So I'm really, really excited today now to talk to you about all things about really building your confidence. So guys, what I'm going to do in the next second is I am going to share my slides with you here. And as Claire mentioned, look, don't feel that you have to be taking down any notes. If this is a time that you just want to kind of sit back, relax, listen, reflect, absolutely do so because you will get the slides afterwards. And as well as that, guys, I will give time throughout where, you can ask questions and, make sure that you have an opportunity to maybe ask or comment on anything. So I will give time because I'm somebody that I love to talk, but sometimes we need a break from me talking as well. So what I'm going to do is I am going to share my screen with you here. So let me just see that we can do that. Okay. And Claire, you might let me know if we can see that okay.
Looks good. I can see it. Everyone else? Yeah.
Super. Super. Okay, lovely. So guys, as we know, today's session is all around, how to build your confidence and ultimately, what is on the agenda for today, and what is it that, how is it that we're actually going to build our confidence? So in order to really kind of get in under the bonnet of this topic, what we're going to look at today is what actually is self-confidence? What do we mean by that? We're also going to look at, the importance of confidence. We're also going to look very specifically as well, guys, at how you actually develop your interview confidence. And then finally, what we'll look at is what can be the barriers to confidence. And we're going to look at 5 very specific barriers. And then at the end, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to maybe talk about an action that you're going to take when it comes to, boosting your confidence or maybe something that you're going to do differently. And then we're going to summarize it. So I will absolutely give time for any questions or comments that you want to make. But I'm really conscious that we should kick off and absolutely get into it. So firstly, guys, I think it's always really, really important to start with what actually is self-confidence. It's a word that gets a little bit thrown around. We hear about it a lot. But what I actually wanted to do was break this down and actually talk about what do we mean when we talk about confidence. So I have about 5 key points here that I want to discuss. So when we talk about self-confidence, guys, what we really mean is confidence is very much an attitude. So it's an attitude that we have about our skills and about our abilities. So really, guys, when we mean an attitude, it's almost a bit like a mindset. It's how we see ourselves. It's how we feel that, we are. It's how we see our skill set. It's how we believe, it's how we see our abilities. So it's very much an attitude. Confidence in itself is not a skill. It's very much, kind of a viewpoint, if you will. So let's kind of get into this a little bit more. So again, guys, what self-confidence means is that you can very much accept yourself, you can trust yourself, and you feel that you have quite a good sense of control of your life. You're somebody that, you're also very self-aware. You are very aware of what your strengths are, perhaps what your development areas are. But ultimately, guys, you've got a very positive view of yourself. And as part of that, you make sure to set yourself realistic expectations and goals. So that's kind of another layer of it. So on top of the fact that it is an attitude, it's also, again, how you view yourself, how you view your abilities, your strengths, your development areas. But as well as that, guys, confidence also depends on the situation that you're in. Something I always say is that you can be the most confident person, but a lot of it can depend on your situation. You could be somebody that, you're really confident with your friends, with your family, but maybe you're not very confident around people that you don't know. Maybe we're not great, about talking ourselves up or even talking about ourselves in front of a group of people that we've never met before. Or maybe, we are very confident in a work situation, but when it comes to academia, we're not very confident. So a lot of it, guys, can very much depend. And I think the aim of today as well, guys, is to make sure that no matter what the situation is, that we do have the tools to really be able to boost our confidence levels, to be able to tap into that. But if anybody is here today and you're thinking that really resonates with you, maybe there are aspects and areas of your life that you do feel more confident than in others, you're not alone. That is absolutely, a huge part of, what confidence is. The other thing as well, guys, is that when it comes to self-confidence, a lot of it is that we might feel that we've got quite low or quite high self-esteem, but that whatever the level of your self-esteem is, that's actually rarely related to your actual abilities. A lot of that is based on your perceptions of yourself. And what we mean by perceptions is that's the way that you think about yourself. So guys, a lot of the time, we could sit here and we could think, I don't really have a lot of confidence. I don't really have a lot of self-belief. I don't really know where my strengths are, but that's your perception of yourself. I bet if you asked somebody, or, if a friend or a family member was to describe you, they probably have a list of wonderful things to say about you. So I think that's also really important to note that, if you're here today and ultimately you're thinking, God, I I don't know where my strengths are, my development areas are. I don't know where I feel confident and where I don't feel confident. That's okay, because ultimately, guys, that is the perception of yourself. And, that's not always that perception is not always, what is true and what is true about you. So ultimately, guys, in a nutshell, if we were to really like wrap up what actually is self-confidence, it's an attitude. It's very much, as well as that, a mindset. It's based as well on, how you see yourself, how you see your skills and abilities. And remember as well that a lot of it can depend on the situation that you find yourself in. Okay. Now, guys, I wanted to share this image with you here. And I want to just talk through this because this is something that I absolutely love. I think that it really nicely kind of describes all the various different steps and levels of confidence. And if anybody is, kind of looking at the screen, what you'll see is we've got this kind of little cartoon individual here, and there's various different steps, to this kind of stairs, if you will. And before I kind of go in and really dissect this, as I say, this is an image that I absolutely love. I remember my mom actually printing this off for me back when I was in university, because I remember in my first year of university, I wasn't very overly confident with myself and my own abilities. I was really worried about coming up to exam time. And I remember her printing this off and sticking it above my study desk. And this really, really helped me. And let's talk about how this actually helps. So, if we wanted to try to define confidence, guys, this image, what I love is, the first step that tends to happen when we're presented with any, situation or something that is quite maybe challenging for us, or something that gets us out of our comfort zone. The first thing that comes into our minds is, you know what, I won't do it. I won't get involved in this, or I won't apply for this college course, or I won't take up that hobby. A lot of the time that can be the first thing that kind of creeps into our minds. But the second stage then of our confidence is going, I can't do it. Like, there's no way I could do that course. There's no way I could take up singing lessons. There's no way that I could apply for that job. The third step then that we tend to find, guys, is that actually maybe I actually want to do this. But I want to go for this job. I want this course. I'm interested in it. I think that I would be really good with this. The fourth stage then, guys, that we get with our confidence levels is, how do I do this? How do I go about getting involved in, whether it's how do I interview for this job? How do I find out more about this college course? Is it that I can do it online? Is it that it has to be, in the classroom? Can I do it part-time, full-time? Then what we do is we reach our fifth stage of our confidence levels, which is, you know what? I'm going to try and do it. I'm going to just apply for this role. I'm going to sign myself up for those singing lessons. I'm going to, register for that course. I'm going to try it. And then we get to our sixth stage, guys, which is, I can do this. I absolutely can. I believe in myself. I believe in my abilities. Of course, I'm well able for this. What's stopping me? And then almost, I suppose, our final stage is that I will do this. I have applied for this job. I have signed up for those singing lessons. I have gone and registered for that course. And that ultimate and, final conclusive stage is, yes, I did this. I have come to the very end of the road here. And this is really a good representation here of the various different stages of confidence and where it is that we start and the exciting journey that we go on, and how we feel when we get to the end that, yes, I actually completed this. I did this. And guys, it might seem like, a kind of a funny image, but it's something that has always resonated with me. And I think that it's important for us to remember that, again, guys, we can be very confident. We can be, there can be certain situations where we do find ourselves more confident than others. But remember that these steps and stairs will always occur. And these are conversations that we may need to have with ourselves as we go along. We may start with the I won't do it, or we might maybe only be halfway up the stairs. You might see something and go and start with, how do I do this? But I think it's really important to note that, when you struggle with your confidence, to always kind of come back to that imagery and remember that, confidence does take that little bit of time. It does come in stages and it is a journey, but ultimately when you get to the end of it and when you get to the end of that event or that situation or that task, you are going to be so delighted that you did it in the first place. You'll have learned so much, you'll have gained so much from it. So I just think that's a really, really powerful image, and I thought it'd be really nice to share with you all. So guys, the next thing that I want to get into is, why is self-confidence important? Why am I here talking about it with you today? Why is it something that we are paying a lot of attention to? So guys, I've kind of put down about 5 key points here in terms of why actually is confidence important. So the first thing is, guys, is that it does lead to less fear and anxiety. So what do we mean by that? So ultimately, guys, the more confident that you become, the more that you're able to calm that inside and kind of inner voice that tells you, oh, you can't do that. Oh, no, no, no. No, there's no way. I want you to think about any kind of situation where it might have put you a little bit outside your comfort zone. What was the first thing that inner voice inside you was saying? Was it talking positively to you, saying, oh, you know what, Naomi, you need to go, you need to apply for that. Oh, you need to sign up for that. Oh, you need to go on that trip. Or was the voice talking to you a little bit negatively, going, that's not for you. I wouldn't be bothered. Sure, you can't do that. So we've really, really got to think about that, guys, and really remember that, fear and anxiety, they are they're very powerful emotions. They can really take over our mindset, and they can take it over in a way it's not good for us. It's not healthy. So it's very important to remember that, we need to talk back to ourselves in that kind of confident way. Like, if I was to give you an example, I am probably not the most confident flyer. Getting on a plane for me is something I just get very, very nervous about. I'm not, and it's terrible. I mean, it'd be worse if I was the pilot, right? I mean, good God, I would hope I would be a confident pilot, but as a passenger, I'm not a very, confident passenger when I'm flying. And, but the problem is for me is I love to travel. I love to experience new things, see new cultures, try new food, all of that lovely stuff. So the thing about it is for me is the more confident that I can become in flying, the more confidence I can have in the pilots, in the flight crew, you know, the less fear and the less anxiety I have when I get on that airplane. So, and I'm sure if we all took a moment to think about that, there's probably some aspect of our lives where we always maybe get a lot of fear, we get a lot of anxiety. But again, if we tapped in to that confidence, if we think about those steps and those stairs of, hold on a second, I want to do this and I can do this, then really anything is possible. The second point, guys, in terms of why is self confidence important is, it leads to greater motivation. So you're much more better able to kind of motivate yourself. So as we know, building confidence, it's a journey. And taking those small steps in terms of building your confidence really does lead to a really lasting sense of accomplishment. And as your confidence grows, you're going to find yourself more driven and more motivated to push yourself outside your comfort zone. Say maybe even coming here today is a big step. Maybe today was a step that you never thought you would sign up for, a Zoom session talking about all things confidence, because maybe, just maybe, you would have thought, you know what, doesn't matter if you go on this session, that's not going to make a difference. And the reality is, and I would hope that, it does make a difference today, but maybe even being here is your first step. And the second step might be, the motivation that you'll have to, take an action after today to think about, well, what is something I'm going to do now, that is going to help me be more confident. So I think that's what's really, really good. And, lacking motivation, as I say, a lot of that comes from that we don't have a lot of confidence in ourselves. But having that quite healthy level of self-confidence does help us to go, you know what, I'm going to set this goal for myself, or, I've done, I've kind of hit the first step of this situation, so I'm going to hit the second step. So it really does help to drive us and to push us forward. The third thing, really, guys, in terms of why self-confidence is important, is that it does actually help us to become more resilient. Now, resilience is a word that I feel like, we've probably come across a lot in the last year or so, because especially the world that we've been living in, resilience has been so, so important. But essentially, guys, confidence really does give us the ability to, cope with setbacks, to cope with things not always going the way that we thought they were going to go, to cope with maybe even failures in our lives. Now, the reality is, guys, having self confidence doesn't mean that we're not going to make mistakes, that we're not going to have setbacks, and that we're not going to maybe, fail at something. But the reality is having that self-confidence is going to help you dust yourself off and go, I'm going to try that again. And that's really, really important, guys. Something I always say to people, and I think this is really crucial, is if you think of somebody, I don't know if anybody here is a basketball fan, but Michael Jordan, who would have played for the Chicago Bulls back in the 90s, was undoubtedly one of the best basketball players. But the reality is, guys, he was the best. He was very confident in his skill and his abilities and how he played on the court. But, Michael Jordan didn't get in there and win every single game. He lost games, he had setbacks. But the minute he had that, he didn't just throw in the towel and go, that's it, that's the end of my career, never playing basketball ever again. The reality was, guys, he had a very high level of confidence and a positive mindset to go, no, what's really important here, that I learn from this setback, that I learn from this situation. So it's very, very important, guys, because the reality is Life is always going to throw us curveballs, and we need to be able to, have that high level of resilience where we don't let those curveballs stop us from doing, what we want to do, from what we want to achieve. So having that self-confidence really does help us to become more resilient. Then as well, guys, in terms of, why self-confidence is important, it also helps to improve our relationships. So you'll actually enjoy your interactions more with people that you know, because you won't be comparing yourself to others. I mean, I just think that's one of the biggest issues that a lot of us can suffer from, is that we do tend to compare ourselves to other people. But when we've got a very high level of confidence and we know who we are, we're confident in our abilities, in our skills, we're confident in ourselves, how we present ourselves, you stop comparing yourself to other people. You stop thinking, oh, I'd love her job, I'd love his car, I'd love their apartment. The reality is everybody's life is completely different. And what's great about having that high level of self-confidence is that we forge deeper connections with people, and we actually celebrate the success of others rather than thinking, God, I would have loved that myself. And I think that's really, really important, guys, because something I always say to people is, you also cannot compare your insides to somebody's outsides. What we see from people a lot of the time is external. So we might look at somebody and go, God, she's got a great job. Just seems like her life is just amazing. But we don't know how that person feels when they go to bed at night. We don't know, do they wake up in the morning and they dread going to work? Do they dread speaking to a manager? Do they, they don't like the people that they live with? I mean, you just don't know. So the great thing, guys, is that when you tap into that high level of self-confidence, you get rid of all of that. I'm not saying, forever. There might be times you meet somebody and, you might go, God, they're really lucky. But it's kind of bouncing back and reminding yourself to go, hey, wait a second. You are amazing. You're great at what you do. You've got loads of friends, you've got a really good supportive unit. All of that. It's all about talking to ourselves in that positive way. And that's really, really important, because as I say, that really does help with our relationships, whether they're personal relationships or professional. And the final point, guys, in terms of why is self-confidence important, is that it really does help root you in who you really are. So what do I mean? It helps root us. So it means that, again, we'll be able to accept ourselves for who we are. It helps us to accept, our strengths, our development areas, but knowing that that doesn't actually change our self-worth at all. We'll be able to celebrate what it is that we feel that we are really strong in, and really be able to use those skills. And that actually helps to give us a really good sense of purpose of, what are the things that are important to you. And as well as that, guys, you will start to understand more about who you are. What do you stand for? What are the values that you live by? And most importantly, you will ultimately be able to help, let your best self shine through, because that's what it's all about, guys. Letting, that best version of you shine right through, because I can tell you right now, the best version of yourself and, being the best that you can be is absolutely incredible. So before we move on to how to develop your interview confidence, even, which is the next thing I want to move on to, I'm just conscious that I've been, speaking a good bit to you guys, and I just want to check, does anybody have any questions on what we've discussed so far? So just to recap a little bit, we've talked about what self-confidence is. We've talked about, the various different stages that, our mind goes to when it comes to our confidence levels. And we've also talked about why is self-confidence important. But what I just want to do for the moment is just stop sharing for a second, just to see even if we have any questions that have come into the chat box, or if anybody would like to ask me something in terms of what we've discussed. And if we don't have any questions, that's okay. We can wait till the end. What I'll do, guys, is whilst I'm just getting the screen share back up again, if anybody does have anything though, please feel free to let me know and to ask, because as I always say to everybody who, is a participant on any session, is that, this is your session. Do and please make sure that you do get the time to ask any questions that you'd like. Okay, so guys, how do we develop our interview confidence? This is an important one. This is one that I have been asked time and time again from people in AIB, from people outside of AIB, and this one is quite close to my heart because I forgot to mention this at the start. So I have been working in AIB for about 5 years. Okay, now when I started working on the recruitment team. So my job was basically, putting up job advertisements, having initial phone interviews with people, getting them in for interview stages, and either offering them the job or unfortunately having to tell them that, we couldn't offer them the job at this time. So I did that for the first 3 years of my career before I moved into the role that I'm in now. And I have to say, guys, whether you're somebody is here and you're kind of on that employment route where you're actively interviewing for roles, or maybe you're in a job at the moment but you're kind of thinking about moving, or maybe you're not in that space at all, I think that a lot of this is very transferable skills. But I think it's really, really important to talk about, because ultimately, guys, interview confidence is absolutely key. Bringing your best self to that interview is the most important thing. So let's really dive into this, guys. So how do we develop our interview confidence? So I've put down about 6 key points here. So guys, the first one being that the most important thing you can ever do when it comes to, a job interview is learn about the job role and the job requirements. So what do I mean by that? So what I mean, guys, is that if you see, a job that you're really interested in, make sure that you read through, what are the responsibilities of that role? What would you be doing? And the reason why I say that, guys, is when I worked in the recruitment team, I used to hire for a lot of our customer services roles. So that would be people who work in our branches or people who work in our call centers. So, if anybody here has ever lost a credit or a debit card, and you ring up, whether it's AIB or any of the banks, those are the people that you are speaking to, those very lovely people who can help you out. But I remember once ringing somebody, they had applied for the role, and I said, what is it about this role that, interests you? Why did you apply? And their answer was, I have a bank account with AIB. And I remember thinking at the time, it's not that that was a wrong answer. That would have been a great answer, but what it would needed to have been was incorporated in with, well, having looked at the job description, I actually saw that, there's a really high level of people contact with this role. It's dealing with the public. It's handling, quite difficult conversations, which I actually feel very confident doing. It's something I'm very passionate about. So that to me, as a recruiter, would have told me, what, this person, they've read the job description, or they might know somebody who works in that role, but they've actually bothered to kind of have a read about it. So that's really, really crucial, guys. And that really helps to kind of enhance your confidence levels, because you're in absolutely no doubt of what that job is. Because something as well I'd always say is, this is where a lot of people can make mistakes with jobs. They don't read it fully, and then when you actually get the job, you think, oh God, this isn't what I thought it was going to be at all. So it's so important, even for you as an individual, to go, is this what I would want to do? Do I feel confident that this is the role for me, that this is something I can be really passionate about, that this is something that I believe in, that I want to, make a career out of? So that's the first way you can get really kind of confident and really develop your interview confidence, is really understanding the role that you're going for. The second thing that you can do, guys, as well, is don't be afraid to ask about what are the type of interview questions I'm going to be asked. So again, if a recruiter from a company rings you and they have that initial conversation, they're really happy that you know the role and what it is that you've applied for, and they say to you, can you come in or can you dial in on Friday for an interview? You are fully entitled to ask, absolutely, can I just get a sense of what the type of interview questions or the type of interview format would be? And a lot of the time, guys, recruiters will always give that to you. They will always say to you, look, these are the type of questions that you're going to be asked, because at the end of the day, guys, interviewers are not there to catch you out. They want you to get the job, because the reality is they have a vacancy that they need filled. So they don't want to make life any more difficult in order to fill that. But in order for you to feel confident when you go into that interview, it's no harm that you understand, is it that they are going to ask you questions that are related to particular skills? So a lot of the time they might say, yeah, they're going to ask you questions that relate to communication, that relate to customer service, and maybe that just relate to your general knowledge of the organization. So even if you know that, it means that you can kind of go away and have a think about, what are maybe the examples that you have that link to, really strong communication skills, or that link to really good customer service skills, whatever it might be. So it's always important that if you don't get that information, to ask it, because that's really going to help to develop your confidence in that interview. You don't feel like you're going in there cold. The third point, guys, that's going to help to develop your interview confidence is that, you can prepare your answers to interview questions. So like what we've just said, if you get any idea of what it is that they're going to ask you, you know, be able to maybe kind of get in front of the mirror. I always do this. This seems really silly. I always say this to people. Put a mirror in front of you and pretend that that mirror is the interviewer, and talk about, some examples of maybe when you've dealt with customers. Talk about some examples of, what you know about the company, what you know about the organization. Because the other really good thing is, guys, is you actually see how, you can come across. Or even if you don't do that, even if you don't want to look at yourself doing it, go to a friend or a family member, somebody that you know well, and practice how you kind of answer those questions. So I just think that preparation is key, guys. It seems like a really basic point, but you would be amazed that a lot of people just think, oh, it'll be fine. There's no way that I can prepare for this. You can always prepare for an interview. And the more that you prepare, the more successful you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be. The minute that you get into that interview, you're going to feel like, you know what, I prepared as much as I could. I gave it my best. After that, there's nothing else that I can do. We've all been in situations where we think, God, I really could have prepared for that more. And we kind of know ourselves that, that preparation is key. So, guys, the fourth point in terms of how to develop your interview confidence, and this kind of links in with our fifth one as well. So I'll kind of combine these two together. This would be research the employer and research, the culture of the organization. So, guys, this is really, really crucial. You have no idea how many times people fall down in this when it comes to, interview confidence. It's so important that when you get in for an interview and when you get to that stage, that you're able to talk about what you know about the organization. So let's take AIB, for example. If somebody was coming in, they might be able to say, I know that the purpose of AIB is that you back your customers' dreams and ambitions. I heard on the radio recently that, you're very passionate about the sustainability agenda, and that you've moved over to green mortgages. So it's not like you have to know absolutely everything, but it's being able to, you know kind of articulate or be able to let the interviewer know that you do actually know about the organization. And it could even be something that you're interested in. So say, for example, when we talk about researching the organization's culture, a lot of the time, you might go onto like an organization's website. You might see that they've actually got a really good, diversity and inclusion initiative, or they've got a really good well-being and wellness program. And even if you're able to say, I went on your website the other day and I saw that you've got a really good, women in leadership development program. And that to me is something that is very close to my heart. I think that it's so important that companies have those types of programs, that they make time for that. So it doesn't have to be that every kind of random fact about the organization. Even if you wanted to focus on one thing that even just interests you, I mean, that's really, like, that's amazing for an interviewer to see. And I have to say, guys, it will really help to develop your confidence. If you feel comfortable talking about that, you have no idea how well that comes across in an interview, because it's very clear to see that it's something that you're interested in, but you've done your research. And ultimately, from an interviewer's perspective, they would think, wow, this person would be a really good fit in this organization. So doing that bit of research, guys, is really going to help develop your interview confidence. And the final point, the sixth point here, guys, that will ultimately help to develop your interview confidence is being enthusiastic and sincere. And this is really, really important. And this almost goes back to our first point of when you are, whether you're reading about a job description or somebody is telling you about the job, it should be something that gets you excited. It should be something that you feel enthusiastic about. It should be something that is important to you. And that is something that you should be able to show when it comes to an interview. You should be able to say, this is the type of job that is really perfect for me because it really aligns to one of my values, which is, helping others. For me, something that's really important to me is that I can help people, that I can help people who are in, maybe a difficult situation or they're having a problem. And the key thing as well, guys, is being sincere. And to be honest with you, that's something that really, if you are enthusiastic about something, your sincerity very much shines through, like, and again, as we've, talked about a few moments ago, when you've got that high level of confidence, you're very rooted in who you are. You're being your most authentic self. But don't ever underestimate and don't ever feel like, oh God, did I really go off topic there? Did I really talk about something maybe I shouldn't have? The one thing I would say is, always keep it to the interview, but remember that it's okay to be enthusiastic about the role. It's okay to be enthusiastic about the organization or the company. But if you can remember to do those 6 things the next time that you are going in for an interview, it is really, really going to help develop your interview confidence. So guys, we're coming kind of towards the end of the session. And something that I wanted to highlight was what can actually stop us from being confident, and what are the barriers to confidence? And so I was looking recently, the Harvard Business Review had a really, really good article up about barriers to confidence. And I picked these top 5 because these really are the 5 most important barriers to confidence. And I think the reason why it's important to talk about this is I'm really conscious that everybody who's here today, you might be thinking, well, Naomi, it's all well and good from where you are to say, oh, you just need to research the organization, or you just need to believe in yourself, or you just need to, remember that it's all in your mindset. But you might be thinking, but I don't know why I can't think about those things. I don't know why I can't be confident. I don't know why I can't speak to myself more positively. So this is where we can kind of break this down. What is ultimately stopping us from that? So ultimately, guys, the first barrier that really does stop us from being more confident is those self-defeating assumptions. So as we talked about earlier, that inner critic inside of us that says, there's no way that you can do this. This is not for you. You must be joking if you think you could apply for that job, or you could take up that hobby, or you could apply to do that course. And guys, what's really, really crucial here is that the minute that we hear that inner critic, talking to us, is to remember that we have a choice. We know that confidence is an attitude. So the reality is, guys, we have a choice here. We have a choice to either go, am I going to have a confident attitude towards this event or this situation? Or am I going to let this negative inner critic take over? Because I think that's something that's also really important to remember, guys, is that you as an individual own your confidence. You are the one that decides whether you are going to believe in yourself today and tomorrow and the next day, or if you're not going to believe in yourself. So, what's so important, guys, is that the minute that you hear that inner critic being very, very negative, to take just a step back and go, hold on a second, I have a choice here. I can either absolutely let this self defeating voice take over and then I just end up doing nothing. Or I can actually go, hold on a second. I'm interested in this, say it's, we're applying for a course. I'm interested in this course. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find out more about it and I'm going to take it from there. So that's how we kind of break down that barrier of confidence. The second thing, guys, that is a barrier to our confidence is that sometimes we can set ourselves very unrealistic goals. And what I mean by that, guys, is, we don't really give ourselves the right enough time or space to achieve something. So let me just give you an example here. So in my job, the function that I work in is human resources. And the most senior job in human resources is called the Chief People Officer. And they report into our CEO, okay? Like the entire head of the organization. A very unrealistic goal for me would be to say that by December 2021, I'm going to be the Chief People Officer of AIB. Now, before you say anything, I'm not saying that I can't ever be the Chief People Officer of AIB. But what I'm saying is that's not a realistic timeline. And what will happen is that I'll get to December, that won't happen. My confidence levels will shrink because I will believe that I now can never do that or can never be in that role. When the reality is, I actually did not give myself enough time. If I was to put realistic goals towards that, what I would do is I would say, okay, Naomi, so you work in learning and development now, but probably the next job that I should have would be maybe being a HR business partner. Because what that would do is that would open me up to a much wider view of HR. I'd get to understand the business a lot more. I'd be dealing with much broader HR issues. And then after that, what I would do is I would become maybe a team leader, maybe, the head of the HR business partners, so that I can say I've got leadership experience. It's all about taking our steps, guys, and it's all about those realistic goals. Okay. So as I said, it's not like, I'm saying, oh well, I can never do that. I have the confidence and self-belief to say, yeah, absolutely. But it won't be realistic to do that by December. And that's what's absolutely crucial, guys, setting those realistic goals, because that is going to help motivate us and it's going to help boost our confidence levels. The third point and the third barrier, guys, to confidence is that sometimes we can go at things alone. And what I mean by that, guys, is that we can be faced with a challenging situation, a challenging event, or we could be at a crossroads in our life and we think that we've got to make all these decisions on our own. And that's just not true. It's so important to remember that, if you have a very good support system around you, to talk to people. If you see a course that you're really interested in and you think, God, I'd love to do that, but I just don't know, and if you've got a really good friend and say, look, what do you think? You know me. Do you think I'd be able for that? How do you think I'd be able to do that? Do you think, I could do that part-time? Do you think I could do it in the evening time? And that's really, really important, guys. And it's a bit like, some of you here, you may have someone who's like a mentor to you. I know in my career, I have had many, many mentors who have been brilliant, because I have had times in my career where, I have tried to go for opportunities that were not successful for me because I never discussed it with anybody. I remember once when I was on the recruitment team going for a role as a team leader, and the interview just went so terribly. It really, like, it's, if anybody ever wants to hear a funny story, I'll tell you that another time. But, again, when I look at those points about how to develop, your interview confidence, I didn't do a lot of those things. I didn't really think about the role. I didn't really research enough about like what a team lead does. And I remember somebody saying to me after that, they said, you really need a mentor. You needed somebody that you could have gone to say, is that even the right role for you? Is that something that aligns with your skill set? And that is so, so crucial, guys. It's so important to have somebody or multiple people that you can talk to that can help, get you from A to B, and that can help you with your confidence levels as well, and that boost your confidence rather than drain your confidence. So, guys, I'm really conscious of time. I know that we're kind of bang on 12, but Claire, if it's okay, I might just take another couple of minutes just to get through the last couple of slides, if that's all right, or are we kind of
No,
tight on time?
no, go ahead. And if we understand if anyone needs to drop out, I know because we are over time, but please do go
Yeah.
ahead. We
Oh,
can
you're
get
so good. Even if I can just, if anybody can stay for even another kind of 10 minutes or so, that would be an amazing, really, really amazing. And apologies. But guys, the last two kind of barriers that I just wanted to talk through was, the next thing that I suppose that is a barrier to your confidence can sometimes be blaming other people. If we think about situations that maybe haven't gone very well for us, sometimes it's very easy to blame somebody else on it. Like, again, the example that I just told you about there, that I did an interview once and it really just went so colossally wrong. you know I could have very easily blamed somebody on that. I could have blamed the interviewer and said, well, they didn't really ask very fair questions, when deep down I actually know it's myself. And putting the blame on other people when we deep down know it was actually something that we kind of missed a step with, that really does not help. It doesn't give us the confidence. And the reason it doesn't give us the confidence is because we don't learn anything. All we do is push the problem on to somebody else. The final barrier, guys, to confidence is that a lot of the times we can sometimes neglect setbacks. We might go into something thinking, I'm going to go into this course, I'm going to do really well, I'm going to get 100% in all my exams and all my assignments. But what we need to do, guys, is just be a little bit realistic and go, you know what, I'm going to do my absolute best doing this course. My aim is that I'm going to do 100% in everything. But the reality is, what if I'm in the middle of a module and I'm sick for a week and I miss out on a week's worth of, lectures? And that might set me back a little bit. And it's not to say that you'll never get back on track, but it's to remember that no matter what you do, not everything goes according to plan. And that's like everything in life. If you've ever gone on a holiday and you might have your whole itinerary ready to go, and something always happens, you think you've got everything organized, but maybe you are taking the bus somewhere and you know, the busmen are on strike. And now we actually can't get to that part of the city that we wanted to get to. So, it's really, really important to remember. And we said this earlier, that life will always throw curveballs at us. Like, that's probably one of the only sure things that we have in this life, is that we are going to be thrown and faced with various challenges. But one of the biggest barriers to our confidence, and even really to our resilience levels, which, as we know, is a very important direct result of confidence, is that we don't we don't kind of take time to think, you know what, a setback probably will happen. And sometimes, guys, the minute that we actually accept that, maybe it doesn't happen for us. But it's just to remember that setbacks can happen. But when we go into something with a high level of confidence and we're aware of that, that's absolutely fine. But what can stop us from being confident is going into something and thinking everything's going to work totally smoothly from day one. Nothing wrong is going to happen here. I will make no mistakes, because I'm a robot and I do not make mistakes. Okay. Now, guys, what I wanted to do, I really liked this quote from the Dalai Lama, and I just wanted to share this with you as we come to the end of our session, is that where he says, with realization of one's own potential and self confidence in one's ability, one can build a better world. And guys, that is so, so true. The minute that we take a moment and we go, you know, I know where my strengths are. I know where I am really, really good. I know where I shine through as a person. And that confidence that you have in your own ability is magic. It is absolutely magic. The reality is, guys, each and every one of you here on the call, has something that you are absolutely phenomenal at. And if anybody here might think, I don't think I do, well, that just means that you need to tap into that self confidence because that might be your perception. But, everybody here has something that they're absolutely brilliant at. And guys, what that particular thing is could change the world. But it'll only change the world if you have the self belief, if you have the belief and the confidence in yourself to keep going with that, to share that knowledge, to share that strength that you have. And it's amazing. It's inspirational. It really, really is. Now, guys, we won't have time to do this group activity, but if I could even give you a little bit of homework, or even at the end if somebody wanted to share, but something I did want to ask you to do was just to think about one thing that you are going to take away from today, or one action even that you will take to boost your confidence. And I don't want to give you too many examples, guys, but we've talked about a lot of different things today. One of those things could be that maybe you're going to start talking more positively to yourself. It could be maybe that you're going to seek more support from people. It could be that you're going to be more aware that confidence takes time, that it's a journey, and that sometimes we can start we start at the bottom with I won't do this, I can't do this, but we know that we'll gradually get to, I can do this and I want to do this. So I just want you to think about that. And as we get to the end, guys, because I just want to get to the summary and just double check if we have any questions here, but feel free to share if there's an action or something that you are going to take away from today. But guys, the final piece that I just wanted to run through here is just summing up what are the key points, if nothing else, that I would ask that you take away from today. Firstly, to remember that self-confidence, it's an attitude. Remember that strong self-confidence motivates us, it increases our resilience, and it strengthens our relationships. As well, guys, to remember that barriers to confidence, they can happen to even the most confident person. It happens. We know that it can depend on the situation, but we know now how we can kind of get over those barriers. The other thing, guys, I would ask is that, to ensure that you work on your action plan. And when I say your action plan, it's that point. I want you to take, I'm only saying you can take 1 point, take as many points and maybe write them down, type them up, say them to somebody, but keep them somewhere that you can go back to, that every time you struggle with your confidence, you remember what are the actions that you are going to take to help boost your confidence. And last but not least, guys, and this is the most important point, you need to believe in yourself. That is where you need to start, because the reality is, guys, if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will. And something I always say to people is, if you say anything with enough confidence, people will believe it. Imagine when, after Claire opened the session this morning, she said, Naomi, this is Naomi. And I said, hi, guys, my name's Naomi. I just came and flew from Mars this morning, and I've been living on Mars for actually the last 2,000 years. Sounds pretty confident, does it? I mean, if I said that, and I said that with enough confidence, you guys might go, oh, maybe she does live on Mars. Maybe she has been living for the last 2,000 years. Who knows? That's a really silly example, guys. But what I'm just trying to say is that you need to believe in yourself. When you are having conversations, or, if you're writing anything, don't have doubt in your mind. Don't even have doubt as your tone of voice. Speak with confidence. Write with confidence. Listen with confidence. So I'm going to stop talking. What I want to do is firstly just say a huge thank you, and I'm so sorry, guys, that that we went over time, but I just think that there's, like we could be here all day talking about this, but most importantly, what I want to do is see, do you guys have any questions? Anybody that could stay on, and thank you so much if you could stay on here today. But does anybody here have any questions that you'd like to ask me, or anything that or any actions that you would like to share in terms of any actions that you have actually decided you're going to incorporate now to help with your confidence levels? Everybody's probably like, that was a lot. We might be needing a little bit of time to just kind of digest the information, which I'm always very aware of. But, as I said, guys, this is your session. I'll leave it for another minute or so if there's anybody that wants to ask anything, or feel free to use the chat box if you don't want to say it out loud, even if it's something that's maybe resonated with you that you'd like to kind of change or do differently. Everybody's having a think maybe about it. And guys, look, that's absolutely fine. I don't want to put anybody on the spot, because look, it's all about what we feel comfortable kind of discussing and talking about. But what I would say is, reflect on this later today. This is only one session, but this is not a one and done. This is something that, you should really take and develop upon. And remember that, confidence really is a journey. And whether it's later today or later in the week, just think about, what are you now going to try and action and do differently that's going to help you boost your confidence levels. And remember to challenge yourself as well. The minute that you talk down to yourself, you think you can't do something, that you don't really have that self-belief, just remember to actually go, no, I have a choice here. I actually have a choice to own this and speak differently to myself. But look, guys, I'm really conscious of your time, and I just want to say a huge, huge thank you. Thank you so much for staying on, for listening, for taking the time. And what I would say is, just the best of luck on your journey with your confidence levels. And if anybody here, has LinkedIn, please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions that maybe you think about later in the week or later next week, feel free to just send me a message on LinkedIn, and we can have, a confidential chat about it. But a huge thank you as well to Claire and Jessica and Willow. You guys are fantastic as well. So a huge thank you to you guys for having me on. So if there's nothing else, guys, I will hand you back over to the lovely Claire, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Naomi. There's so much there and so interesting. I have a lot of reflection to go home and do as well now. I'm just going to say thanks so much to everyone for joining us for the very first Towards Work training session. It's great to have you all here, and I really appreciate you staying on a little bit late, and apologies again for the little bit of tech issue earlier. I just want to say, so this is the first session in a series of training sessions on employment. Next week, we have a session with Johnny from Social Talent. This is going to be on the job search. So information on who the hiring manager is, where to look for a job, what are your key words that you should use, how to follow up with people when you've applied. So as always, this is the first year we're running these sessions. If there's a subject, a topic that you'd like to see us cover, please do get in touch at info@towardswork.ie. Let us know what you'd like to see us do. If there's anything we haven't brought up yet, you can't see on our website, drop us a mail, let us know. We're here to be a service. One of the pieces that Naomi mentioned about confidence barriers is going it alone, and that's what we're here for. Towards Work is here to support you to build your confidence and be there behind you. So